Here we are for another video in which I share with you my honest review of all the passive income that I got in the month of May in terms of cashback, interest and dividends. So let's kick things off by looking at my dividend portfolio. You can see over here on GetQuinn, which I use to combine my various brokers. Right now, I'm mostly using interactive brokers and trading 2-on-2 for the majority of my holdings, but you could add any other ones there as well. They have quite a big choice. You can see the various positions that I have. Obviously over here, I trimmed down quite a bit. I used to have way more dividend stocks, but I've actually reduced quite a bit of them, especially when I compare them to the S&P 500 performance, many of which underperform. So instead of just getting a passive dividend, which feels nice, but in terms of total performance of my portfolio, I just didn't think it was the best for my returns. And I want to grow a long-term portfolio and build my net worth. And for that, I really have to utilize and get the most out of my investment. So I didn't feel it was worth anymore to hold that many dividend stocks that I have. But as you can see, I still have some. Right, so if we go down over here, you can see that I have all my various dividends. So right now, if I go to all time, you can see for 2024, I'm going to be making $1,380, which honestly is not too bad, right? Just by passively holding my investments over here. And of course, that also includes my S&P 500 because yes, it still pays me a dividend. In fact, actually, the biggest dividend comes from my S&P 500 investments. And both together over here, you can see, close to $300 in a year. Even though the yield is very little, as you can see, I mean, the dividend yield right now is 1.18, 1.22. That fluctuates a little bit, but rather on the lower side compared to some of the other dividend stocks that I have. You can see 5.66, 5.58, even one with 8.5%. So definitely some higher ones over there. And yeah, but ultimately I realized that the S&P total performance is better than many of my other dividend stocks. So if we drill into 2024, I can see all the various months that I got previously, but of course I want to focus on May. And you can see right away, unfortunately, May wasn't very impressive. And that's also something I want to just mention. A lot of people get caught up and thinking that every month the dividends grow month after month. And that's absolutely not the case because actually a lot of the US companies pay on a quarterly basis, but a lot of the European companies, if you invest in European stocks, for example, they pay you only on an annual basis. So that means you would only get once a year a payout in terms of the dividends. The total will be the same, right? Let's say you get 5% dividend. That's actually no difference if you get it every month paid to you, every quarter paid to you, or once a year. It's still going to be only 5%. So technically, there isn't really a difference. It's just psychologically how it looks, right? I like to receive every single month a dividend from different companies, but actually in terms of total dividend per year, that's how you should look at it. That's what matters. But still, of course, when I had previous months $152, this month's only $34, that's very little, right? And you can also see the number in red over here because that means year over year I dropped. And that's, as I mentioned before, I sold some dividend shares. So naturally, last year in May, I got more dividends than I got this year. So that's the whole explanation behind that. But then again, looking ahead at June is going to be actually the highest month and highest ever dividend I will ever gotten so far. Even when I look at previous years, you can see over here, I can go back to previous years, never gotten that much. So that's really exciting for the next month. But sadly, May was rather on the low side. Nonetheless, let's look at it and see who paid me. Now, obviously, Apple paid me, and Apple, you can see, has a very low dividend actually. When I go into Apple, I think right now they're paying me, what is the dividend over here? You can see a dividend yield of 0.5%. Now that's of course tiny, right? And also I don't have a very big, large Apple holding. So those two together honestly resulted in a measly, less than $3 dividend payout. So yeah, not going to retire on that, that's for sure. But still, again, I like Apple shares as such. They have been beaten down quite a bit in recent times. I hope in summer they come up with some new AI announcements so that they will pick up steam again, but we'll see how it goes. But for now, I'm holding on to the shares. You can see it's twice because once again, I have them in my trading 2-1-2 account, but I also hold them in my interactive brokers account. So that's why they listed twice over here, even though Apple only pays a one-time dividend, right, every quarter. Then I have my two REITs, real estate investment trusts. So these are basically stocks investing into real estate. Both of them mostly are very active in the US and they pay me a monthly dividend. So that's a nice thing, right? A lot of dividend investors in the beginning, they want to look for monthly dividend paying stocks and there aren't actually too many good ones. I think those are two of the better ones for sure. They have a very nice dividend yield. I'm getting, as I said, 5%, 5.5%. And yeah, I mean, they paid me, every month now, 23 plus 7, so $30 I get from both of them together in a month. So really not bad. Honestly, I haven't been buying much of them in recent times and I'm probably not going to. But at the same time, I'm also not selling them because in terms of total return, I'm actually down a little bit on them. But I'm 100% sure once the interest rates will start dropping, which I'm very sure they soon will, then I will definitely know that those prices and share prices for them will go up and I will get definitely back to where I was, probably a slight plus. And then I may decide to keep them or cash out and convert it into S&P 500. Not sure yet, but definitely I'm going to be holding them. I like them. And in the meantime, they pay me a dividend. So it's definitely very attractive. And I generally like real estate. And of course, those two REITs are one of my favorite ones. And lastly, Mercedes-Benz. Even though I actually don't own Mercedes-Benz, that was one of the referral shares I got, which I usually sell quite quickly. But at the time, I must have held it while there was still a dividend being paid. So you can see, 67 cents, which again, is not really life-changing money, but why not? Free money is always appreciated. So yeah, in total, you can see definitely not too impressive, but that's just how it goes. You see the rest of the month, usually over $100. I have like 2-3 months where it's under, but most of the time, if you consistently add to it, you will definitely grow and see the compounding effect. But one thing definitely, you should always compare your dividend income and total returns. Important, the total returns. Don't just get hung up on the dividend percentage, because sometimes that can look very attractive, right? Getting an 8% return, similar like the S&P 500, great. But in my case, it was the same. I got 8.5% return from Altria, a smoking company, but in total performance, it was still less than the S&P 500. So I think that's very important to once in a while, just check for yourself and see how it measures up compared to the market. Right, with this, let's move on to my interest income. And that was actually the biggest passive income that I got for last month, especially when I compare it to the low dividends. You will see it was actually really a nice number. And that's despite me removing a lot of the cash, because as I mentioned in previous video, I had a lot of cash expenses right now, as we're now in the process of finishing our new apartment in Lithuania. At the same time, I had to buy all the furniture for our new apartment in Dubai as well as paying an annual rent in advance for that apartment in Dubai, which is already very expensive. So yeah, a lot expensive, but hey, it is what it is. But definitely that's why I still appreciate getting that passive interest income to me. And yeah, I use a number of apps to get those. So let's start off with Lightyear. Lightyear is an amazing app, which I really love. And recently they did some nice changes to the interest, and now I get even higher interest. But you can see right now in terms of cash, I have here my cash position, and here I can click into and have only 30 euros left. Previously, I had all my money in there, but you can see the interest is only 3.25%. So there is other apps out there with higher interest. And yeah, so far lifetime interest is actually very nice with 647 euros. And last month I got around 30 euros paid from them. However, towards the end of the month, they launched a new feature called savings. And you can see now I get 3.82. That's already much more attractive, right? So now I moved all my funds from the cash into the savings account. And you can see already now I'm getting 14 euros 70 cents only for a couple of days. So it's definitely going to be higher in the future as I keep my money over there. So I think that's really going to be nice and definitely much more attractive now when I compare to some of the other apps I had. But yeah, altogether around 44 euros. In the future, I will only be getting my interest from the savings part over here. Then we move to Trading 212, another one of my favorite brokers. You can see my total portfolio on the top over here. And yeah, you can see they pay me 4.2% actually now interest. So last month I got 40 euros from them alone. And yeah, honestly, I don't have that much cash over here. So less than a Lightyear. And still, the interest is really attractive. So you can see my daily interest, €1.28. And yeah, when I think about it, that's actually the interest only from Trading 212 higher than I got in dividends from my various other dividend investments, right? So yeah, quite attractive. Of course, other months the dividends are higher, but still it goes to show you 4.2% almost guaranteed interest versus some of the other dividends, but where the price of the stock can still fluctuate, is really not too shabby. Now, of course, we have to keep in mind, we are right now in a high interest environment. I can see in the future that interest will go back to previous levels, which you used to have, which was, 1 or 2%. So then, of course, eventually all those numbers will be coming down. But in the meantime, while they're still high, I think it's definitely a smart thing to capitalize on it. And if you don't have a Lightyear or Trading 212 account yet, then use any of my links down in the description below, and you'll be getting some nice welcome bonuses and perks. So definitely check it out. Use my link. It will benefit you. It will benefit me. Win-win scenario. So nothing to lose. Definitely check it out. And yeah, when I go to my USD holdings, you can see I get 5.1% actually, even higher. I actually convert a lot of my US dollars either through Revolut or even inside the Trading 212 app to buy my ETF of choice, which is S&P 500. But I buy it in London in US dollars. You can see over here, if I go into this, that's the one I'm buying right now. And yeah, as you can see, it's actually based in dollars on the London Stock Exchange. You can just go down here, instrument details, you will see London Stock Exchange. So I have to buy it in dollars, which I like. Most of my income is now in dollars. So I just prefer the dollar long term. I think it's a stronger currency than the euro. So that's why you can convert it also inside the app. You pay 0.15%, which is really attractive and sometimes actually better than Revolut, can you imagine? So yeah, it's a really good way to also exchange it over here and even at the same time get a higher interest, right? If I compare this to only 4.2%, 5.1%, it might make sense to convert some of your money and keep it here in dollars and benefit from a higher exchange rate. Of course, keep in mind that by the time you might need your dollars back into euros to purchase something, there might be, for a little while, unfavorable terms. So you might lose out on the exchange rate because at that time the dollar versus euro is not in your favor. So something to keep in mind. But if you keep it long term and once I have some cash position or planning to buy some US stocks, it might make sense to keep it in your USD and benefit from the higher interest. Then we move to Trade Republic, another great broker. And you can see here, last month my interest, I got 139 euros, which is really nice. There was times when I got even more, but as I said, I actually withdrew quite a bit of cash from here, which I previously had because they had one of the highest, protected limits, protected up to 100,000 euros. And they used to pay interest up to 50,000. They now removed that limit. There's no more limit as to how much you can get the interest, 4%, which is really quite attractive. So yeah, honestly, quite nice. You can see now the average balance is still a bit higher than my actual balance because it kind of calculates the average balance you had for the month. So at the beginning, I had a higher one. Now it's lower. So that's kind of the average balance. But yeah, I actually withdrew quite a bit from there. And probably next month, I'm happy to withdrawing even more, if not all of that. Once again, to, as I said, pay for the apartments and different things. So yeah, very expensive times these days. But in the meantime, honestly, how much I benefited from them. I got well over 1,000 euros in interest just by using Trade Republic. So if you have some cash sitting around, definitely use it to your own advantage. And if you want to do so, once again, I have a code down below where you sign up with it. You get 10 euros to get you started. Before I move on to the next interest apps that I use to get passive income, I want to let you know if you enjoy these transparent videos where I share openly how much I make in passive income, I will be making a deep dive video into all the various income that I get from YouTube, affiliates, sponsorships, ads, rent, basically all my income that comes to me on a monthly basis, plus all the expenses to really pull the curtain and transparently show you how much I earn every single month. And I think it might be very interesting. However, this will only be exclusively available for all the Smart Money Club members, which is an amazing community of like-minded people. So this is really where we meet, when we can discuss, share our portfolios, our thoughts on investing, different strategies, different topics. So I think it's really insightful. So I think, with these open conversations where I really reveal all my incomes, I think it will be really beneficial for you. So if you're interested in that, how much I make, how much I spend, definitely consider becoming a member. Once again, there's a link down in the description below, which you can sign up and join the community. I'd love to have you inside. Next up, we move to Revolut, which is the app that I use on a daily basis for all my transactions and especially payments internationally. I really love it, but I also use it for savings. You can see right now, I have two savings accounts, one in euros, one in USD. And actually my USD used to be quite a bit more, but once again, I withdrew a lot of the money. Even with that, I made some interest of $18 for the month of May, because as I said, for some parts of the month, there was still some dollars in there. So I still got a little bit of interest from that. Then we come to my euro savings over here. And you can see it's definitely a higher amount. I'm getting right now 3.91%. Similar like Lightyear. Definitely both are great options. And you can see I get the interest paid to me every single day. Now €2.30. So yeah, quite attractive. And here on my euro holdings, I actually earned 58 euros and 60 cents. So definitely not too shabby. Once again, even here, that is higher than I made with my dividends. So it just shows you how powerful interest can be. And one more app that I use is my WEO bank account, which is basically my Dubai bank account that I use. I really love it. I use it for my personal account and my business account. And yeah, once in a while, whenever I get paid on my business account, I move it over to my personal account. And here I get 5% interest on my dirhams, the local UAE currency. And you can see last month, I made around 53 euros in interest from my holdings over there as well, which once again in the past was even higher. But as I said, I also used a lot of my dirhams that I made over there to pay for the various things, the furniture, the rent. So yeah, a lot of expenses, I said, but still, I mean, that's really nice just for keeping my money over there. And with this, we come to the last part of my passive income, which is the cashback. Now, I always say cashback is like a bittersweet thing, right? Because on the one hand side, it's nice to get it. On the other hand, it means that you spend a lot, right? So it's a double-edged sword, so to say. But at the same time, I always tell myself, I will spend the money anyways, right? It's not that I'm spending it to get the cashback. I spend it because I had to spend it. So in the meantime, I can benefit from it. So I think why not get the most out of your money that you spend anyways? And I know a lot of people use their debit cards, credit cards to run ads or to pay for business expenses. So if you have these things, so why not benefit from it, right? And there's really some great options out there. In Europe, sadly, not that many, where we have a lot of cashback options. But in my case, I use my Revolut card and my WEO card. So let me show you how much I made for the month of May. Right, with my WEO card, I get 1% cashback on every single transaction. And you can see in total, I made 341 dirhams, which equates to around 85 euros. So honestly, really quite happy about it. As I said, I would have spent the money anyways, right? I had to buy furniture, pay for the rent and all these things. So to get the money is really quite nice, which otherwise would have gone to waste. And I really appreciate that they're actually paying it in real cash, right? Not some kind of, benefits or miles, because some other cards do that. And I tried it for a while, but then they were always expired, or you had to find special days when you can redeem them. And honestly, I'm not really good at tracking all these things. I want to have the cash and decide what I do with it myself. And that's what I like about Wio and Revolut as well. These are options that you get paid the cash at the end of the month, and it's up to you what you want to do with it. Yeah, that's just the way I prefer it, and I like that they give it to me in real cash that I can use for myself. And the second card I use is my Revolut card. I'm on the Revolut Ultra plan, and I use it together with my Revolut Pro card. Now, Revolut Pro card is free to sign up for anyone, but the cashback depends on which level you're on. If you're on the free plan, the metal, premium, or the Ultra plan, I'm on the Ultra plan, so I get 1.2% cashback on pretty much any transaction I use my card for. And you can see in total I made 829 euros. So well worth the money for me. Definitely paid already for the Ultra plan just in cashback. So for me, it's really worth it. But again, I understand if you spend less in a month, of course, it may not be worth it for you. So if I click into this over here, you can see last month's cashback for me was actually quite low. That is because I was spending mostly with my Wio card as I was living in Dubai. So then I use my Wio card, right? It makes sense to use the local currency. But then when I come back to Europe now, where I am right now, in this beautiful place back in Lithuania, so now I'm going to be using my Revolut card more. So you will see next month that cashback will be once again higher. You can see here all the previous months. If I click into all, you can see some month, 100 euros cashback, 129 euros cashback. So yeah, most of the month it actually pays and covers the monthly fee that I pay for my Revolut Ultra, which is around 45 euros. So last month, maybe not that much, because as I said, most of my cashback I got from my Dubai card. So still 8 euros, why not? I love it, I take it. So yes, that's basically all the various passive income that I made in the month of May. And in case you haven't calculated yourself along the way, in total, that number comes to 535 euros purely in passive income, which honestly is really quite nice. I'm really happy with this, especially considering that I took out a lot of cash during the month. So I was really prepared for much less interest. Of course, it was, let's say, halfway through the month, so maybe it hasn't impacted so much. Maybe it will be reflected for next month because, of course, I will have less cash to get interest on. At the same time, I also got way less dividends, right? It was one of my lowest dividend months. So next month, while my interest might come down, I may be making more in dividends again. So I think a similar number should be there. So I'm really happy with this. Literally passive money that otherwise, if I wouldn't have used those various tools, I may not have gotten paid to me, right? Otherwise, it would just be my active income, which I actively have to work towards. But I think that's all about smart investing and utilizing and making sure your money is working for you. Now, of course, I also talked about previously a trade that I did where I earned more than 2,000 euros. And honestly, I'm really happy with this, but I wouldn't really call it purely passive because honestly, I was trading a little bit. So that way I had to really follow and kind of work for it in a way. So I wouldn't really call it truly passive, but at the same time, also not really active, as I don't think it was really that hard. I just had to click a couple of buttons on my computer. But yeah, just to keep in mind, technically, I could add that in here as well, same as my rent. But at the same time, I don't want to include my rent in this calculation because that would just inflate the numbers, because that would be such a much bigger part compared to the few hundred euros I'm making over here in passive income. But I think it just makes it more realistic for most people to start, accumulating a little bit of passive income. But as I said, if you want to see all of the income that I made for last month and all the expenses, then definitely consider joining the Smart Money Club. There, I'm going to be very transparently sharing all of that. Next up, check out this over here. As always, thanks a lot for watching. Stay healthy, get wealthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.